Friends, brothers and sisters, let me start with this small little question. We just had a beautiful prayer before starting. What is its purpose? Does it help in some way? What happens when we pray? I'm not saying all the time to all the people. What happens when we pray? What happens? Something happens inside? Calmness.
More receptive.
Yeah. We feel a calmness. We feel a kind of trust. Does this calmness and trust impact our body? So you see, we have looked at human beings in a very isolated manner. So let me take an example straight from the Gita, how it describes us as human beings in our totality. So the Gita says the body is a chariot. If I have to use a modern analogy, let me transpose it to more modern, because chariot may not connect with. The body is the car, vehicle. And the vehicle needs fuel. So there are these, all the senses and different horses through which we get fuel. And then the chariot or the car also has a driver. We need a driver, and then the car, there is a traveler. So this makes the totality of who we are. Imagine you buy a very good car, latest, most advanced car. Would you entrust it to a driver who doesn't really know how to drive, who is rash, who is careless, who is a drunkard? Would you entrust the car? You won't, isn't it? Logic, common sense. Who is the driver of this car called the body? We say, I am the one. We don't even look at it like that. Who drives the car? So if we really look at the driver of the car, then there is a whole world we discover. For instance, most of us are driven by what is called as instincts, drives, hunger, etc. But is it only hunger, or there is a driver sitting even over hunger? Are we driven by hunger? We hear this instinctively, hunger. How many people eat when they are hungry? Very few, isn't it? So who is driving? Hunger or greed? Palate. And there is another driver whose name is desire. See now desire acts upon the body. When there is a strong desire, what happens to the body? When the object of desire is right near you, and you have to just stretch out to grab that, there are things happening inside the body. Sometimes you become aware. Sometimes you are not sure whether you will grab it or you will lose it. The heart is pounding. Sometimes the breath becomes fast. Sometimes it may not be the object of desire, but something which comes between you and the object of desire. There is fear. There are all kinds of things which drive the body. Does fear drive the body or no? It's a known thing. These are well-known things, established. Stress responses, all this. I'm not going into it. So there is, normally we are driven. The driver that is given to us is Mr. Desire. And while the name is very nice, it's not very desirable, because he is often a rash driver. But then if we take this analogy, we'll discover that desire is only a fuel. What impels desire? Then we'll see there is somebody else who is driving the car. Our thoughts are impelling the desire. And very often, even when there is no object, just when we think about an object of desire, our body responds in certain ways. Does it or does it not? अच्छे खाने के बारे में सोच के मुंह में लार आती ना, very simple. है नहीं. Okay, I'll take another more common analogy. We are watching a TV serial. वो real नहीं है. There is no ghost out there. It's all virtual. But you are looking for a companion. Ghost is not going to come out of the TV, and yet our body reacts. Not only ghost on the TV, but maybe pleasant things on the TV. They start driving the mechanisms inside. So, of course, our body has evolved in certain ways that it can handle a certain amount of fluctuations in desires, etc. But if the intensity of these things increase, the body is unable to handle it. And body is unable to handle it because the driver is unable to handle it. And who is the driver here? It is the mind. So why the mind is the driver? See, you are watching a program and your mind is responding in certain ways and the body is being impacted. But there is someone who can also control the mind. Just as in the car, when the driver is driving rashly, then what do? The owner who is sitting behind, he taps on the shoulder and says, "Bhaiya, dhire chalao." है ना? Now imagine we are sitting in the car as the owner of the car. Driver says कि सर कहाँ जाना है? And the owner says जहाँ मर्जी ले चलो, जहाँ मर्जी ले चलो. सर कुछ तो बताइए, रास्ता गोल किधर जाना है? अरे ले चलो भाई, हम बैठ के सो रहे हैं, बहुत अच्छी कार है, बहुत हमने कॉस्टली प्राइस देके खरीदा है, 6 लाख की कार है, 10 लाख, आई डोंट नो, 50 लाख की कार है, लग्जरी कार है, तुमको जहां मर्जी ले चलो. व्हाट विल वी से टू सच ए पर्सन कि थोड़ा साइकियाट्रिक एग्जामिनेशन अपना कर लो. बोलेंगे ना हम. So, don't you think that this is the state of our everyday life? We may have a very good car given by a good heredity. That part is okay, designer. But who is driving the car? That's a whole world. Why I'm saying world, we often have this tendency to look at everything in isolation. Does the body exist only alone in itself? Or all the bodies around it, the physical environment, the atmosphere, physical atmosphere, is it having an effect on a physical being or not? When we breathe the air, isn't it? It's impacting. So it's a whole world. So also, there is a whole world of desire. And I'll give a simple example. We go to a market. Experience this, that you have gone with a friend. चलो चलो चलते हैं बाजार. आप कुछ माइंड में नहीं है, घूमने के लिए चले गए. अब बाजार में जाके क्या होता है? डोंट गो विद योर वॉलेट फुल. हाँ, ये भी खरीद लो, वो भी खरीद लो. ये क्यों होता है? आप it wasn't there, and it suddenly, it comes up, and we end up picking up things. We are drawn to things. There is a whole world of desires which starts influencing us. Imagine, we are living in a sea of vibrations which we don't understand. It's constantly impacting us, just as our state is impacting others, because we are not isolated and separate. How much ever this body may make us believe, even the physical body is not isolated and separate. The air we breathe is connecting us to the atmosphere that is around. We may not see it. We may not see the germs that are in the atmosphere, yet they are entering, isn't it? And imagine if we are living in an atmosphere which is full of fear, they are entering us. You just can't help it. Desires are entering us. Emotions. Have you seen sometimes when you're perfectly fine and someone nearby begins to cry because the person is feeling emotional? Doesn't it trigger a set of feelings in us? Unless we are completely heartless. So it triggers a set of feelings. With patients this happens, with people it happens. We are not directly concerned. It doesn't matter, but it triggers a set of feelings. So we are surrounded. The Vedic rishis said that each aspect is a world in its own right, and they spoke of this world as a multiverse, not universe. Something towards which we are already moving, right from the most physical materialistic theories and understanding of matter, that this is a multiverse. So there is a world of physical world which we are aware of, but we are not aware of the world of desire, the world of emotions, the world of energy, the world of thought. So we believe, I am saying believe because there is no concrete evidence that why do thoughts happen? Why do we think? How do we think? Is it a random event? How is it? What happens? Something happens in the brain. That's how we will say. Brain में कुछ कुछ होता है. Synapses के बीच में current, है ना? Most of the brains have a similar make. I mean, synapses हैं, hemispheres हैं, corpusculum है, connectedness है. But see the variety. The same basic system can give rise to a sage-like thought. And the same basic system can lead to thoughts which can destroy a whole civilization. Isn't it amazing? So, does the brain generate thoughts? Or is it only a machine that somehow receives thought, God knows from where? And then when it gets into the machine, it comes up as words, sounds, symbols, according to our conditioning. Let me give an example. We sit before a computer and type out, isn't it? And whatever we are typing, based on the key, we have the word sentences, depending on the language, whatever we type. Now imagine if somebody says, actually, how these words are generated. They are generated because of the mechanic sequencing of the keys. See where I'm going? And you can have a whole science. If you press these keys, these words will be generated. Right? That's very good. But still it doesn't explain why these words are generated, because these keys are not going on automatically. You can use the same keypad to generate abuses and to generate a song or a prayer. So the body as a machine, the brain as a machine, art is a machine. But there are things which enter into this machine, and the machine is built to receive certain elements and express it in certain ways. Let me take another example, which we encounter every time, when do we say that a person has died? Conventionally, I am not talking of the brain dead, but saans band ho gaya, heartbeat band ho gaya, you try to resuscitate, not then, declare dead. So, what do we say? Brain, it is breath that gives life. And when you read the Vedic seer, they will say prana. So there is a lot of confusion. What is this outdated prana stuff? We know breathing से life आता है. Breathing में क्या है? Oxygen से life आता है. Hold on. Not only oxygen, there are creatures which don't take oxygen. So now there is another challenge. Okay, oxygen plus anaerobic respiration. Now if you follow this, if you take the Vedic understanding of it, and I'll tell you how this works very well in everyday life. So they say there is a universal prana, energy which is circulating in this whole creation, out of which matter itself has come. This comes closer to the material science, that there is energy out of which matter comes, it can be absorbed back, balance is maintained. But this universal energy enters into each creature. There are different mechanisms which have been created through which it can enter and sustain the organism. So nature has evolved in us certain mechanisms. What are these mechanisms? So what are these mechanisms? In us, human beings, breath enters, oxygen is there, which contains this possibility of releasing energy to us. It enters, there is a whole process through the alveoli, blood circulation, goes to the cells, enters into the cell, ATP. Then what happens? Energy is released. You have heard, no? Energy is released. What is that energy which is released? What is that energy which is released? And then the cell functions. Now you see, energy takes a material form, process, Krebs cycle, everything, yes, process. And then through the process, it is released and it is used by the human body, the physical cells, organs, etc. We understand the process. We have all the details of the process. But we do not understand what that energy is. Is it one type of energy or different types of energy? Let me give another example now to make it more clear. We know that if you ask somebody energy कहाँ से मिलता है, so खाने से मिलता है, breathing से मिलता है. Any other sources of energy? I'm going to ask something. Huh?
Sunlight.
Water, yes, water of course. Sunlight nowadays be. But just imagine a practical example I'm going to give. Have you noticed that you are hungry, you want to eat, and suddenly, a friend calls us and there is chabad going on. You don't realize your hunger has vanished. Have you noticed this? You're feeling depressed, low, no energy. As a psychiatrist, one of the treatment we advise, not a very good treatment, but window shopping. Now it is very easy, Amazon. जाके देख रहे हैं. अभी कहाँ से वो एनर्जी आ गया? You start feeling upbuoyed. They're different. Now the Vedic thought explains to us there are several kinds of energies. Material energy is needed for physical processes, and there is a whole mechanism nature has evolved to receive, transmit, and once again transduce. This is exactly what is happening in the mic and the sound that we are hearing. Exactly the same process. And if we take it still further, if I go to the source of the thoughts that are entering into me, entering my brain, coming here, finally going through a whole mechanism through in a very different way as packets of information, and then they are coming, reaching the ears. Are they ending with the ear? No, they are going into the brain. Do they end with the brain? No, they enter into some space where meaning is given, and then they create a difference to the consciousness of the hearer. So there is a whole world we don't know. There are different kinds of energy. There are people whom you meet, and after some time, I had one of my teachers are very respectable, but there was at least one teacher. If a manic person went into his room, we knew, अभी ये depressed होके आएगा. Manic depressive, ये अभी 10 minutes. And he had that capacity to make a bipolar manic person swing into depression. Almost he would become suicidal. That was his effect. So, हम लोग कैसे पढ़े वो अलग बात है. We learn to laugh at all this, and fortunately there are other teachers also who balance out. But have you noticed that different kinds of people have different effect upon us? This is not to say human beings are not same. Yes, of course, container is same, but the content is not the same. We don't understand that. Container is same. We should not distinguish people on the basis of the container. But content is something which is important, which we have forgotten. Equally, there are people where you go, whom you meet, and you feel upbuoyed, and you want to go there more and more. Why? Because you receive some kind of a beautiful energy. Is it true only of people or also of places? Isn't it? But alas, can we measure it? Love helps, love heals, love gives us joy. Who would doubt it? Even the most materialistic person would say yes, but we cannot measure love. It has to do something with the quality. And that's why it is said, well, nowadays we live in the age of evidence-based medicine. But we are missing out some of the most important things because they cannot be measured. But because they cannot be measured, is it that they are not true? Mother's love cannot be measured. Maybe one day we'll measure serotonin levels in the. Somebody once told me, अरे sir, ये सब serotonin का खेल है. मैंने बोला हाँ, ये अपने वाइफ को मत बोल देना, मैं प्यार नहीं करता हूँ तेरे से, मेरा सेरोटोनिन थोड़ा बढ़ गया है. फिर वो तुम्हारे सेरोटोनिन का क्या करेगी वो बाद में देखेंगे. Isn't it absurd? We go to absurd level. Yes, you can measure serotonin, but why the measurement goes up and down? What I am trying to hint at is the process primary or there is something which goes behind the process? What triggers a certain cascade of events in the body? We can measure the cascade of events. We can see, oh, that car was going and it took a wrong turn and it went across the divider. That's how we are reading, no? Newspaper reports. And suddenly it hit the divider and it was a fatal accident. थोड़ा ड्राइवर की भी बात कर लो, दारू पी के चला रहा था, होश में नहीं था, all this happens. So there is the driver also it was a good car, but he was a bad driver. So integral health means that we don't look at the body only as the body. This is not to say body is not important. Body has its importance. The software is important. The hardware is important. You can't deny it. Even genetics and heredity are important. But even equally important, if not more important, because once you have bought the car, it is the energy, it is the driver, it is the fuel. The fuel may be very bad fuel. It may throw a lot of smoke. Old time we had those engines, koila engine. Up to you must have traveled. I have traveled in coal engine. So it was throwing a lot of smoke and it will suddenly stop uphill. So there will be like 2 hours, engine failure. Gadi will come from another engine, replace it. Then came steam engine, then came diesel engine, then came petrol engine, diesel engine. Then now we are talking about solar engines. Similarly within us, there are different sources of energy apart from the material energy. They are energies of a very low order. For example, we have different kinds of music. Have you observed the effect of music on our being? The music, and you can see it even on the bodies. There are music, and literally it is said, shake your legs. Isn't it? The music which do something to your belly. The musics that touch your heart. And you suddenly feel as if drawn in the depths. Your head will almost loll. That's what was happening when Dr. Bilani was singing some nice songs in the car. Automatically, because it's a music which takes you deeper. The music where your head is in kind of a strange ecstasy. Isn't it? Different kinds of music. What is music? Ultimately, it is impacting through vibrations. We call it, give it names, rag, this, that, but it's nothing. But if you see purely materially, it's nothing but packets of vibrations impacting that tympanic membrane, going to the brain. Brain is not reading music. It is simply nervous system goes information, then you perceive, and that has an effect. So it has different effects upon the human system. So if you have one kind of music, it is likely to impact our system in one way. Another kind of music is likely to impact us in another way. How many studies anyone is aware of the effect of music on the human body and its health and illness? Something which is so logical, yet few studies. Whatever few studies are there, they are very amazing. I'm sure people are aware even on crystals, water crystals, the effect of Om. It has effect on the water crystals, crystallographic images. Why is it not being studied? maybe we won't need so much of medication. Maybe we'll have a future where we have a music room where people go and listen to nice music, come back. Is it possible or not? If this is possible, that it is affecting me now, it can affect. If it is affecting my body, who knows, the cells are getting realigned because of the harmony. If illness is a disharmony, a disorder in the functioning of the total system, which is what it is a kind of disorder, disharmony. Dis-ease, disorder, disharmony. Maybe a harmonious rhythmic sound can realign it. Why is it not being studied? Any idea? Read the history of Rockefeller Institute. How allopathic medicine came into being, how other systems were destroyed. I don't want to go into it. Read it and see. Systematically destroyed. There were other things which could have helped us. Destroyed because money. It's a very sad story. This is not to say drugs don't help. They help. But there was so much more richness. That richness was given away to make some pockets rich. We were made poor. Not only materially, but psychologically. Okay, so there is a world of energy, there is a world of thoughts, feelings, how they affect us. We all have heard about it. Of course, we use a vague word, placebo, faith hai. As if it is of no importance. As a psychiatrist, I know that, people say that, well, many of the antidepressants, 33%, some people will say 50% is placebo effect. What does it convey, this information? One is that drugs have no meaning. But a more important information which we don't see, faith has meaning. Isn't it? As doctors, we are all, in this wonderful profession. Do we think that whether we inspire faith or we inspire doubt will make a difference? If medicine is purely a material science, then only thing that should matter is prescription. Drug is the same. I know of a doctor who used to give very good results. Somehow the patient, all of us prescribe the same. Medicines are standard. Some variation, some personal favoritism apart. And someone asked, how is it that your patients really seem to respond so well? And he said, nothing. All that I do is, he was into yoga practice, true yoga, not this upside down yoga. Of course, yoga can turn your world upside down, that's a different story, but in another way, because I'll tell you how it turns your world upside down in a moment. But he says nothing. I go to a patient and say, hey Prabhu, ये क्या आपने ऐसा मास्क पहन के बीमारी का खेल खेल रहे हो? He didn't used to say, he used to just inwardly communicate. Divine, you are in all. Why are you wearing this mask? It's something he was communicating much deeper than to the body, than even to the mind. He was awakening the person's deepest sense. It's like the owner of the car, somebody gives a jolt. Message आया, कहाँ जा रहे हो? कहाँ जा रहा हूँ पता नहीं. अरे पता नहीं ड्राइवर जहां ले जा रहा है. Then what happens? Somebody who is calling, अरे are you a fool? पूछो कहाँ ले जा रहा है, कहाँ हो? तो उसने देखा अभी तो सामने गड्ढा आने वाला है. ओ रुको रुको रुको. There is within us this owner of the car. The Gita uses the word Rathi, the soul in man, which is asleep. And the driver is doing masti. Driver is the vital, the fuel is the vital energy and the driver is the mind. The Upanishads use the word Mana Prana Sharir Neta. But man is not the true leader. It is still a substitute. When the soul wakes up, it becomes the leader. Man is like a temporary. Mind cannot be the true leader because it is ignorant. As simple as that. Mind doesn't know what route I should take here. Doesn't it happen that we are all at a point of time confused whether I should take this decision or that decision? But there is something deeper within us like an intuition. Does intuition exist? No, that's where my first question. When we ask this question, I can ask this another question very simply. Does God exist? Yeah? See?
Yes.
Yes. How do we know that? There is an intuitive sense in us. There is an intuitive sense in us. That's it. Of course, we can discover, we can take the trail of this intuitive sense and discover. I'll ask another question. Where does he dwell in this human body? Where do you think is the most natural habitation of God? God means not God of religion, but whoever.
Soul.
Yeah?
Soul.
Soul, yes, but within the human body, if you have to locate. Hmm? Where do you say, when you say I, where do you point out in your body? Very naturally. Have you ever heard somebody, I am so and so? You say, sir, thoda check kara lo isko. Where does the hand go automatically? Yes. Instinctively. I am so and so. हमारे यहाँ तो ये तो कल्चर में भी है नमस्ते, नहीं तो ये बहुत बड़ा अच्छा है ना? कुछ है यहाँ जो हमको मैं हूं का एहसास देता है. कितना भी we can hear man is only for food and clothing. You never say I am so and so, और पेट पर हाथ मार के नहीं बोलते हो मैं हूँ. सिर पर तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं. ऐसे करके बोलोगे मैं हूँ तो बोलेंगे सर आप तो नहीं हो. ये थोड़ा चलेंगे साइकेट्रिक चेक कराएंगे. So the soul exists in man, the divine presence, as an intuitive sense. It transcends, bypasses reason. It cannot be measured. But, and that's where the beauty lies, Indian yogic system, we can find it. Intuition is like telling you, idhar hai, idhar छिपा hai. Now what is it doing? Ordinarily, it is asleep. It is lying in its cave. And when it wakes up and takes charge, it begins to change things, alter things. Now it is the new leader. So integral health basically means that body is there, but body is not all. There is also something which is called as prana, the vital energy. And prana comes to us in many ways, unseen ways. You must have seen that when you meet a friend whom you love, you forget food. Hours you can talk. And you don't feel famished. There will be a point when you will say, chal kuch kha lete hain. So that energy is coming in different ways. Of course, for the body, you will still need to eat something. Isn't the amount we eat related some way to our inner state? If you read psychiatry, it tells us so. There are states in which we don't feel like eating. At times when we eat too much, and so on and so forth. So it is impacting the body in so many ways. So there are different kinds of energies. There is a whole world of energies, and if we draw beautiful energy within a system, it will be like having an engine run on nice, clean, green, eco-friendly fuel. And when we don't draw that kind of energy, and that was the reason why we had the idea of satsang. So that you have a moment when you draw nice, beautiful energy. What does it do? It cleanses the system. And when we don't have that kind of energy, because we are surrounded by, see what happens to young people having heart attack, different things. But the straight, simple thing is, why is there so much stress? Everybody is running on a treadmill even without the treadmill. All the time. And what is it generating? Our human system is not meant to take that kind of stuff. That stuff was okay. Tiger will leap like that, but even there it's short-lived. But we are all the time living as if constantly we have to hyperventilate and, heart must beat, tachycardia. That's the state in which we live. And the result is breakdown of the human system. So, there are Second level is energy. And the third is mind, our thoughts. Any idea if there is any medical teaching where we are taught how to control the thoughts and where we teach the patients how to control thoughts? And I hope and wish one day we have it. This was there in Indian science, which we lost and bargained it for host of pharmacopoeia, including ways to control thought. That is how we became poor. And I wish, because we all can, we are all scientists. And it's so scientific, it's an everyday observation that thoughts influence us, energies influence us, emotions influence us, desires influence us. It's something which can be studied. Music influences us. But you won't see any kind of investment in that direction, because once you say music influences you, ड्रग कंपनीज का तो पूरा शेयर मार्केट डाउन हो जाएगा, म्यूजिक तो हमको रिकॉर्ड में मिल जाएगा, प्रॉब्लम होगा. थॉट कंट्रोल मीन्स यू आर एम्पावरिंग ए पेशेंट, isn't it? You are empowering a patient. देखो, तुम अपने विचारों को ठीक कर सकते हो, भावनाओं को मास्टर कर सकते हो, उससे क्या होगा? आपका हेल्थ इंप्रूव. ओ माय गॉड, नाउ पेशेंट इज एम्पावर्ड. आपके पास नहीं आएगा या डॉक्टर के पास जाएगा, फार्मिक इंडस्ट्री के लिए प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगी. दिस इज अ very, it's important that we understand it. Again, I'm not saying we don't need to use drugs, but we need to incorporate this very important aspect of teaching about us as human beings, because we have taken straight from the Western paradigm that there is only the body, there is body and there is God out there, up there. वो तो भगवान तो कुछ पागल लोगों का मर्जी है, वो ठीक है, वो अपना जो करना है करे. लेकिन हमारे यहाँ एक इंटीग्रल व्यू था लाइफ का. बॉडी, माइंड, सोल, दे आर ऑल इंटरकनेक्टेड, दे आर वन सिंगल यूनिट. इट्स नॉट, पीपल ऑफन आस्क, इसमें आई विल टेल यू अ स्मॉल लिटिल, डोंट टेक इट अदरवाइज, बट इट्स लाइक अ जोक. सो प्रेयर रूम होता है आजकल एयरपोर्ट्स में ना, देखा होगा उसमें. तो उसमें आपने देखा होगा कि बाइबल पढ़ी होती है, कुरान पढ़ी होती है. कोई कभी ला के वो अपने गीता भी रख देते हैं, बट जनरली नहीं होती है. तो एक बार किसी ने मुझसे कहा, क्यों नहीं होती है गीता, क्यों नहीं होती है? तो मैंने कहा उसका रीज़न बड़ा अलग है. बोले क्या? मैंने कहा हमारा भगवान हमेशा साथ में रहता है, प्रेयर रूम की ज़रूरत नहीं है, हम कहीं भी इन्वोक कर लेंगे. सी दिस स्मॉल लिटिल आइडिया that we carry the divine presence, the creator within us. He's not somewhere far up above, somewhere where we have to access him through very difficult means. He's right there, very close, and we can come in contact. And imagine what it would mean if you are coming in contact with the source, the origin, from which whole creation has emerged. Isn't that ultimate empowerment? Ultimate empowerment is that the owner of this whole Srishti is with us and we can contact. That's how yoga operates. Yoga is about, as I said, we'll talk about Sirsasana. What is Sirsasana? Not physical. So the Gita says Sirsasana is, it doesn't use the word Sirsasana. Urdharva Moolam, the origin is above. एक गाना आपको पता नहीं याद होगा, जिसमें कहते हैं उल्टा होके हम लोग देखते हैं, दुनिया सिर के बल चल रही है. वैसे तो एक्चुअली हम लोग उल्टी इमेज देखते हैं, उसको ब्रेन इंटरप्रेट करता है सीधा करके. बट इट इज ट्रू दैट वी हैव वन पैराडाइम वेयर वी सी मैटर इज द रियलिटी, ओनली रियलिटी. थॉट, फीलिंग्स, कॉन्शियसनेस, सोल, एवरीथिंग इज एन एपिफेनोमेना. And we have the other, that consciousness is the reality and it creates thought, feeling, body as a byproduct. It creates them. And I'm not going into detail, but several articles have written, talks are there where that the body is a construct. It's a construction. And because it's a construction of something which transcends the body, it can be changed, influenced, and who knows, evolve further. How many believe that evolution has stopped with human beings? This will be the last thought which we have. Is it logical to believe that evolution has stopped with human beings? Is it logical? Isn't it? The most illogical thing that evolution has come from dust to man, ab khatam ho gaya. Second question, if it is illogical to believe, or rather it's logical to believe that evolution is not over, can we participate in this evolutionary process? Is there a way we can collaborate in it? As at least half conscious creatures. Maybe plants cannot, maybe animals cannot, but man by his nature is a seeker. Maybe we can. Logically, maybe we can to an extent. I'm not going into what these spiritual writings would say. If we can, is it worth knowing how we can? It's going to change our life. How we can participate, collaborate. What could be the future of the human body? So, all the things that we right now imagine, see when animals, how did evolution take place in animals? Lamarck, what does he say? There is a challenge. And when there is a challenge, you develop, maybe over generations. Giraffes developed like that, huh? Because in Africa you have those high trees. So, घोड़ा जीब्रा गर्दन करते करते चल गया. Mud fish developed into a tadpole. Could it be that all the challenges, physical, emotional, that we are facing today are evolutionary challenges? Consciousness has planned it out for us so that we may evolve? If so, is it good to push us back into our comfort zones? Or take that challenge and learn ways to evolve and deal with it? Answers are very obvious, isn't it? So integral health is not a finished product. It is about the evolving journey of man which connects toward the future. Right now we are only conscious about the body, and we know how to deal with the body in physical methods. But there is whole lot of immeasurable realities. Things are not unreal if we cannot measure. This should be very, very clear. This is the paradigm, unfortunately, we follow. Things only that can be measured are real. There are realities which cannot be measured, as I said, like the mother's love, it is real. And yet which impact us very much, and they need to be incorporated, taken into account. To give one another example, we eat food. I mean, I have traveled all over, eaten all kinds of food. Kahan le jate hain. What do you think would be my best favorite food? Not the food in terms of its. Ultimately, कौन सा खाना सबका सबसे फेवरेट होता है? सभी के ऊपर जो बचपन में मम्मी का खाया हुआ था. You seek it very naturally. That's your comparison standard. मेरी मम्मी भी ऐसा बनाती थी. It's very interesting. What is it in that food which you don't find in all the variations in the world? Some ingredient, yes, some ingredient she was putting in it. Which, yes, which we may pay. अभी बात हो रही थी 6,000 प्लेट का खाना, 25,000 पर प्लेट का खाना, 2,000 पर प्लेट का खाना. ये चीज नहीं डाल सकते तो बीमार करेगा आपको. Now you see that it is not about cholesterol and all. मम्मी घी डालती थी, अच्छे से डालती थी, सब डालती थी. But now we have changed. We talk about lifestyle because now we are having food where everything is there. So there is a Sanskrit word called ahar. Ahar is not just about the material food. It's about the impact of the environment, television, music, quietude, company. Ahar is also the person who has cooked it, the consciousness that has gone into food. Ahar is also about the food you are eating. उसका अपना एक intrinsic quality है. Dravya gun, which is known as tamasic, rajasic, sattvic. All this we are eating. It's a whole science which we have lost, like the Atlantis, and it needs to be discovered. The good news is, all over the world, there are people who are in search of this lost continent, Shangri-La. And they are discovering, because that is the condition. And I think your college itself is one of the pioneers, I must say, which is in its own way, thanks to some of the teachers, management, all of your, I see here, which is embarked on this road to discovery, how long it will take, where it will lead us. But these are breakthrough moments. They're not just ordinary things. We underestimate ourselves because वो वाला जर्नल में पब्लिश होनी चाहिए रिपोर्ट, ऐसे नहीं है. You may make a profound discovery and impact, but because journal wants कि भाई थोड़ा statistics दिखाओ, I have not spoken on statistics. This is another aspect which maybe for some other day, but we should understand the impact of the immeasurable on the measured aspects of life, the impact of the invisible on the visible aspects, the impact of the intangible which slips between the fingers on that which is tangible, the impact of the unseen on that which is seen. And the day we accept and understand it, a whole wide world will open before us. And my prayer that may this world open, just as when we prayed for a moment, we had a glimpse of this world, and then it shuts. May this world be with us forever. So just these some thoughts. If there are questions, we can take that.
Alok, how we can apply concept of integral health in our clinical practice?
Yes, very beautiful question. Actually, I was thinking that. So what I do normally is that when a patient has fallen sick, I sometimes ask a very different question, which is, what dream did you see a day or two before? It is a world of discovery. So there are forces which enter into us. I myself studied them to a large extent. I have seen the day I had a sickness, one night or two nights before. So there are forces, intangible, that besiege us. And I have seen how they impact us. I have seen even before recovery. I can recount one interesting thing. Plenty. I could write a whole book, but no time for all this. I'm only sharing. I'm sharing the discovery without, like, take it or leave it. But we got no time for that. But one, during Corona days, one of the neurophysicians in US, she was sharing her experience. She went around without mask, said, whatever happens. So she was attending on patient. Then one day she was keeping fine. One day her husband told her, what are you doing? She said, I don't know. She had that feeling, what really is this Corona stuff? And that night she had high fever. Next day, she had fever, some paracetamol. And then that particular night, she just let go her body completely. She used to believe in Mother and Shri. It could be any, it's not a miracle story, okay? It could be with any divine being you believe in. She just said, okay, I'm surrendering my body and everything to you. And then she sees a dream. Or somebody would say delirious vision. And she sees that Shri has come sitting on a strange beast. And he takes out, the beast has a kind of a tail, and with that he is driving away lot of some creatures which are floating all around. They are driven away. And he says, now everything is fine. And she wakes up completely normal. Now there is a correlation. She's a neurophysician. She's not like Bhole Baba, bharosa se theek ho gaya. This is one plenty. If I start telling, so I ask. Then I ask what has been the inner condition of a person last few days. Invariably, even for a sore throat, कैसा चल रहा है? You don't have to go into a psychiatric history. Psychiatric history taking is, I'm sorry to say, it misses the point. It misses the point. I hope there are no psychiatrists around. I'm taking a dig at myself, okay? Fine. So it misses the point because you have a format. Cognitive, thought, derailment, ये सब देख रहे हो उसके अंदर. Emotional, apathy है, disconnect है, hypo, ये सब देख रहे हैं. I just ask generally how the person has been feeling and you will see very interesting things. And then just a little probe and little bit of this. कोई बात नहीं है. होता है, ठीक हो जाएगी चीजें, भरोसा रखो. You know, sometimes this small word makes such a difference. We all have grown up through that process where healers, they were healers. दवाई ज़्यादा नहीं थी, healing थी. क्या करते थे डॉक्टर? I don't know whether some of the youngsters have seen that generation of doctors. बेटा ठीक हो जाएगा, चिंता मत कर, ये सिरप पी लेना. 2 कलर के होते थे, गुलाबी और हरा, कभी कभी नीला वाला. खुराक. ये कैसे ठीक होते थे? वो जो एक टच था, हीलिंग टच. Even if we don't know the cause, we should take it that right now the person is besieged by forces of different kind. Maybe there is something in the environment, maybe the person is unconscious, but healing can still take place. That's why they use the word the healing touch. Healer क्या करता था? पल्स देख रहा है, लेकिन उसमें आप healing touch दे सकते हो. In FMC, my pediatric professor had taught me how to hold the hand while taking pulse. मैंने हाथ पकड़ा, बोला आज you have never held a lady's hand, I think. I said नहीं sir, अभी तक नहीं पकड़ा है. बोला that's why. Then he taught how to hold the hand. But what I realized is not about how to hold a lady's hand. I realized it is something so comforting. Pulse, attack. Pulse. Okay, all is well. These small little touches, you know, the first information comes through what? Through senses. You see a doctor. बेलानी जी के रिजल्ट पक्का अच्छे होते होंगे. इतना हैप्पी पर्सन विद यू नो सर, आपको देख के वो बोलेगा एनेस्थीसिया, आई एम इन सेफ हैंड्स. और कोई कोई डॉक्टर होते हैं, उनको देख के लगता है कि डॉक्टर साहब टेबल पर मत छोड़ देना. What is happening? It's really because you are receiving information from the eye and the brain is processing it. As a patient, I would like to see a smiling face when I am going into anesthesia or when I meet a doctor. I want to see somebody who has faith, who can inspire confidence in me. So these are simple mechanisms. I want to hear a voice which is pleasant. ठीक हो जाओगे. I don't know, probably you have corona, go get COVID-19 test done. वो तो माने 50% और नीचे डाउन हो गया. तुम्हारा वो टेस्ट देख के हम बताएंगे क्या है, क्लॉटिंग मैकेनिज्म. अभी वो बेचारा वो कहाँ दिमाग उसका चक्कर में चला गया. So touch and the sight and sound are first informations. Touch is another information. These are information the patient is receiving. So we need to give the right kind of information because it's going to trigger a cascade of events inside the mind. We don't know the power of touch. We have lost it. माँ क्या करती थी बचपन में? यही करती थी ना, बच्चे का सिर सहला के. So that we have lost the art of communication. So first thing for a medical, how to apply it in practice? Communicate. It's not about telling lies. When people say कि झूठ बोलना है क्या, मरने वाला है, I said, how are you so sure? We don't know about anything. Let's not play soothsayers and gods. And when you say कि सब अच्छा होगा, it's not only about the physical body. So communication is the first thing. Then if the patient discloses further, आते जाते राउंड लेते हुए, बेटा क्या चल रहा है लाइफ में? अरे बेटा मेरा वहाँ पढ़ रहा है, तो क्या हो गया, बहुत आजकल स्ट्रेस में है. Then now you have another door of entry. जॉब में सोने को नहीं मिलता है, you have a third door of entry. All this needs to be rectified. कुछ म्यूजिक सुना करो, ये कुछ अलग से बैठ के सेशन नहीं देना है आते जाते, because he developed that confidence. It's something which flows. Integral means it is flowing. Every day when we meet, we should be in that beautiful state. Often I advise क्लिनिक के बाहर अच्छी अच्छी चीजें लिख के रखो. कैसी कैसी इमेजेस होती हैं some places, my God. वो देख के लगता है my God, it's so complicated. कहीं पर वो एनाटॉमी होती है, कहीं पर वो सिर हैंग कर रहा होता है. हाँ, yeah, I used to put outside my clinic some of these things and used to have the music running, very beautiful music, Sunita's music. So I had number of people who used to come and tell me, डॉक्टर साहब बाहर बैठ के ही हमारा ठीक हो गया आधा प्रॉब्लम. Some people say we feel we are already so much better. So sings में one of the things which I had put was that there are two steps to regulating worry. One, don't worry about small things. Second, everything is a small thing. And the power of these messages is so powerful. I don't know whether you have been to some of these forward areas. Utpaladi was mentioning about CHN. Now if you go to in Sikkim, Nathula top, where Indo-Tibetan border police is there, across is Tibet and of course occupied by China. I use the term China occupied Tibet. Okay, so that's my favorite. It's not China, it's China occupied Tibet. Whatever it is. So when you go on the way, before going you will feel कैसे रहते होंगे सोल्जर, ये कंडीशन में कैसे रहते हैं. You have a number of sayings from the Gita. I tell you, by the time you reach there ना, आपका मन करेगा दे दो गन, हम भी यहाँ पर थोड़े समय देश की सेवा करें. It is so inspiring. The power of words, the power of speech, it's uniquely given to human beings, which is not used, misused, abused. So this way, then lifestyle, many people. So simple things, sometimes they ask, breathe कैसे करते हो? Now this is something, इनमें से breathing का क्या लेना देना है? लेना देना है यही मैकेनिज्म है जिससे प्राण की ऊर्जा आ रही है. ये मैकेनिज्म है, बट मैकेनिज्म तो ठीक रखनी है ना. आई मे हैव अ गन विच आई डोंट नो हाउ टू फायर, ब्लॉक्ड है. डीप ब्रीदिंग हेल्प्स not only to quieten because of the association with the 10th nerve and all that, simply because you are drawing prana into your system. So what is happening? The whole mechanism is getting cleared. See how many of us are shallow breathers? Most of us. We are not taking enough vital energy because we think it's an automatic process. We don't know how to breathe. Only 20%, that's right. We are not taught how to think. Just simply quietening the mind, meditation. Not complicated, not भगवान को पाना वो वाला नहीं. Simple. बेटा शांत रहो. कोरोना है ना, कोई बात ठीक हो जाएगा. ये भी एक वायरस है. आप गलत बोल रहे हो क्या? इन्फ्लुएंजा है, गलत बोल रहे हो क्या? शांत रहे, क्वाइट रहे. क्या क्वाइट्यूड से हमारा इम्यून सिस्टम बेटर काम नहीं करता है? These are very simple things. Sunlight, immune booster. I often recommend, now they even recognize seasonal affective disorders. I tell them take adequate dose of sunlight. पुराने समय में सैनिटोरियम में क्या होता था? Fresh air, sunlight, you allow your mind. Now we can create a little environment. In hospitals there should be environment like that where people can just sit in quietude. So these are just some of the simple, easy, doable, everyday things. Putting some nice, beautiful things outside. Sometimes a beautiful picture. But why we don't do it? Because we have developed, वो एक personal चीज है, ये एक secular वो. मतलब we have disconnected the world from its source. And it is based on a paradigm which believes that the world is disconnected from its source. But that's not how we have lived. We have grown up by saying that, Creator is within you. And anything can wake up the Creator. Like Arjuna was woken up by Krishna. And if it wakes up, there is nothing which is impossible. So these are some of the simple things. It's not about sending a person to Babaji and learning meditation. Not at all.
Alok bhai, how do we make children understand about these facts or philosophy about the different components of our being which you explained? I mean, how do we?
Yes, there should be both things. One was a transmission of knowledge which took place automatically when we were growing up. It was within the house because mother and father are the first teachers. So we grew up, we didn't understand. In adolescence, we rejected. That's how it was in recent times. But because the seed was sown, so it was ready, it could sprout anytime. So best is if parents understand this. Then there is schools. So in schools, again, I keep saying we are teaching the gospel of Hiranyakashyap, not the gospel of Prahlad. So same thing it applies in medical schools. We should have something which is transmits this deeper understanding. And it's about spiritual, it's not about religion, this religion, that religion. खाली कृष्ण जी का नाम लो या राम जी का नाम लो या अल्लाह बोलो या क्राइस्ट बोलो, that's not important. That's a representation of something much vaster. You can contact through any which means. There are ways to contact. Aspiration क्या है? हम सब के अंदर है. किसी से पूछा जाए कि संसार सुंदर होना चाहिए कि नहीं, क्या कोई दो एस्पिरेशन होगी? सबके अंदर है. प्रेम होना चाहिए, शांति होनी चाहिए. तो ये जो एस्पिरेशन है ये बड़ी सुंदर चीज है. सो इन मेडिकल स्कूल्स ऑल्सो दिस शुड बी देयर बिकॉज दिस इज connected not only about the physician's health but about the health of society, because as I am so will my interactions be, and if I see social pathology, it's also a reflection of who I am and vice versa. So this exposure should be there and it should be part of the curriculum, at least in India. Let us lead the way somewhere.
So, National Education Policy 2020 and now 2023, I mean, do you see any connect?
There is a
Some
connect,
efforts?
but they are still hesitating. There is a connect, very much a connect. I personally have gone through that, given some talks on that. Definitely, it's many steps they have taken, which are can be said a way ahead. But still, there is a hesitation to bring in the spiritual element. I just don't understand why. Because we are still getting the hangover. René Descartes and the colonial hangover. नहीं, वो स्पिरिचुअल आप घर में कबर्ड के अंदर भगवान को रखिए ना. भगवान की बात नहीं है. There are states beyond the mind. There are deeper states of consciousness. So we should bring it as states of consciousness, planes of consciousness, so people can connect. Anybody can connect with it. And we'll see actually in all religions there is this talk about it. Form or formula को अगर छोड़ दीजिए, so there are states of consciousness that transcend the mind. See, how did transcendental meditation take over the Western world? Because they use these terms. It doesn't matter. You may come from any religious background or no religion. So we can have that there are states that transcend the human mind. So this teaching, Urdhara Moolam, that's why it can transcend simple things in a language which doesn't bring in the religious element, because now there is so much of reactions. And okay, we are discarding the age of religions, fine. But spiritual, it's still not there. Can't talk. Imagine in medical school, India, and why not? मैं तो खुले से बात करता हूँ, कोई problem नहीं है. Spoken like that even in AFMC. I must be authentic to myself, as simple as that. I'm not here to toe the normal line. And I feel all great discoveries take place when you break out of that and discover something new. So let this place lead the way. Who knows? Who knows? We think कि अरे बड़े बड़े schools हैं, Harvard school जिसका असलियत अभी सामने आ रहा है. What was the kind of teaching given in Nalanda, Takshila, that needed to be destroyed by people because they knew if this sort of teaching is given, they will be undefeatable. Let's teach our children how to breathe, to grow in strength, to grow in force. Doesn't it happen? What do we do when we are tired? First thing, stretch. What happens with this stretch? Do we try to see why it helps? छोटी छोटी चीजें हैं, बड़ी यूजफुल हैं. We just discard them and take it for granted. What happens when we are sick? Curled up. Can we teach the power of imagination to simply use imagination for something? Imagination is a power which can act in very horrible ways. This we know. This we know. But why don't we use it in a beautiful way? If it is a power, the fact that I am watching a TV, it's influencing me. What is imagination? The capacity to create images. वहां वाला भूत अभी मेरे बगल में आके खड़ा हो गया. ये किसने किया? पावर दैट कैन क्रिएट इमेजेस. कल जो देखा था एग्जॉर्सिस्ट, मेरे साथ तो हुआ था. पिक्चर देखी एफएमसी में. रात को बाहर निकल के बाथरूम जाना पड़ता था हमारे. रात को मेरे को जाना पड़ा बाथरूम. अब वो भूतहा लड़की, उसका मुंडी घूम रहा है 180 डिग्री, वो दिमाग में आ रहा है. I ran and went and came back. But I discovered that, see, she's not there. I know it's a movie, but my mind is generating an image which is impacting my body. Then I said, why can't I create beautiful images? The beautiful images हमारे यहाँ कैसे होती थी? I am not saying you have to follow that religious way. हम लोग जाते थे जब सुनसान जगह से क्या बोलते थे? भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, न शेरो डरे सब पीड़ा, जपत निरंतर हनुमान. We used to imagine भगवान हनुमान जी गदा लेके चल रहे. अच्छा, okay, we don't have to, necessarily do Hanuman ji. We can say anyone, even if it is imagination, that there is a supreme being, creator who is walking with us. It is a wonderful thing. It helps. I'm not even touching that whether. I mean, it's illogical to believe creation has come through random accident. That's a different story altogether. There has to be an origin, and whatever has emerged must be inbuilt in that origin. So that's a different matter. I am not even going in that. Need not discuss whether God exists or not. The fact that it helps, it helps. Medicine में क्या होता है? Do we remember all the now when during MBBS, MD we remember. Afterwards, do we try to remember all the mechanisms of action? How many people can say yes, yes, yes? नहीं, भूल जाते हैं. क्रेब साइकिल कितनी याद रहती है? कितना रट्टा मारा था एग्जाम के लिए? भूल गए. Doesn't matter, but we know it helps. So medicine, when we are prescribing, we know it helps. We may not know God has managed this world. That is philosophy. But the fact that it helps is a reality. Whether God exists or not, whether I can discover Him is a different matter. But if I image that there is this presence with me, it helps. So it's so wonderful. So I feel we should be real in this matter. No philosophy. Philosophy, those who are interested can explore. Yoga, spirituality, those who are interested, wonderful. That will be very few. But for education purposes, what all helps us get well better? Communication through eyes, through ears, what we speak, through touch, through the environment, inputs, the music, through this idea that there is the divine with us, within us. Whether they will realize it or not, it's fine. It is another, if people will say, ये गोली दे रहे हो, हाँ गोली भी अगर दे रहे हैं, तो वो गोली दे रहे हैं, ये गोली दे रहे हैं. Now again, I am not saying, I not only believe, I know there is divine and there is the soul, but that we need not share. That there is something greater. That's enough. So it should become a way of life. For instance, I don't know, यहाँ पे होता है कि नहीं, there are some institutes where people start with, स्कूल में मॉर्निंग प्रेयर होती थी, वो बहुत मैकेनिकल होती थी, कनेक्ट करना मुश्किल होता था. Start with a moment of quietude with some beautiful music going on. I think it is done enough. FMC में नहीं होता था. Premier Institute है, आप ये नहीं कर रहे हो. Start with that. It would have such a quieting effect. I feel it would have helped so much. हम लोग भी तो पीछे बैठ करके बदमाशी सोच रहे होते थे. अभी कितना अच्छा होता है अगर कोई ये प्ले करके म्यूजिक क्वाइट, चलो ठीक है, वी आर इन गैदर्ड, कनेक्टेड, कंसंट्रेटेड, लेट्स हियर. These are things which can be in this way introduced. Music, sound, and sight are the two most important inputs to the human mind. So beautiful sight. Your campus is of course very beautiful. I think among one of the most beautiful campuses I have seen within India, definitely. Honestly, I have seen so many. One of the most beautiful. You can add to it a place of silence where people could go and connect. Really beautiful. No need to keep any image, but you can keep always flowers and nice little music playing there. So people can connect with the deeper self. When they come to a clinic, nice. See, what do they do in aircrafts? This is exactly what they do. Now they don't do it, but पहले जब airlines आई थी, so they used to know कि ये लोग डरते हैं. नया नया शुरू हुआ था ना, जहाज गिर ना जाए, हवा में उड़ जाए, ये सब शुरू हुआ था. Actually, I think you may remember, sir, when people went into Indian Airlines, so this thing, एक बड़ा अच्छा म्यूजिक बजता था. बाद में वो म्यूजिक मैंने तो कहीं से कि कहाँ बजता है, बड़ा सूदिंग म्यूजिक है. This used to be there because you feel relaxed instantly. So all these things we should do. And planes of consciousness, and consciousness is the term for science, not God.
That's the signature tune of Akashwani.
Huh?
All India Radio.
Signature tune of
Yeah,
Akashwani. Yeah, early morning. But flights में तो it was one of the very soothing things. आपको चिंता नहीं करना होता. अब तो it become routine, so people know कि कोई बात नहीं, nobody is bothered. But initially it used to happen. But people used to feel nervous. They do it in bullet trains because it can be very unnerving to a person. So similarly, we should have these things and scientifically introduce the term consciousness. Let there should be either a department of consciousness studies. In NIMAS they started it. But what happens is one person started it. Had gone there as a guest speaker. So वो उन्होंने start किया था, बहुत interested थे. उस समय neurologist और psychiatrist दोनों they were open to this. They were actually doing study with PET scan नया नया आया था. And they had some very good finding. But then what happens, because they didn't incorporate into the curriculum, so these things go away after the person goes. So you can have a department where consciousness is the word. Exploring consciousness can be a program of teaching. Let's understand consciousness. तो उसमें कोई भगवान आत्मा ये सब जरूरी नहीं, because unfortunately these terms have been corrupted in the mind. God से एक दाढ़ी वाले बाबा जी याद आते हैं, हाथ में एक कैरेट है, एक तलवार है, पाप पुण्य की सजा दे रहे हैं. आत्मा बोलने से वो भूत प्रेत याद आता है. तो we should not use that term. But there is within us a sacred space. अब ये क्या होता है? People connect with that. कैंपबेल ने क्या किया, यही सब सीखा यहाँ से. उसने वर्ड यूज किया sacred space, where you feel peaceful. So we should introduce like that.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Sir, I have heard about Curlin's photography.
Yes. So I have seen. Yeah.
So is there a role of that in diagnosing? Because it is said that it can diagnose aura.
Yes.
Quite 4 or 5 months before the disease.
I have been involved in Kalyan's photography, somebody's thesis which I had overseen. So this person took photography of the. You can photograph even the plants. So it was on effect of music on the aura of plants and the growth rate. And actually it made a difference. It was a 400-page thesis. Such a exhaustive study, because I said, करना है तो इसको proper करो. So I have seen it definitely has an effect. Diagnosis it came up. उसमें there are elements which are important. Like after all, it's very simple. When we put thumbprints, imprints. So अगर पानी है या grease है तो ठीक नहीं आएगा. So it has to be done in a proper way. Also, depending on your state, it may vary. So that's the other catch. So if you are in a very comfortable way, your aura suddenly may show a boom. And if you are at that point of time, so it can tell us vulnerabilities. But diagnostically, but vulnerability is good enough because you can start intervening. Like when we say immune system 3000 आ रहा है, WBC check करो, myelofibrosis तो नहीं है. So now why? Because we say that this is an indicator. So if you take the spiritual point of view, there is a protective subtle envelope around us, and before an illness comes, that gets penetrated. And it gets penetrated if you are depressed, if you are afraid, if you are very anxious, tense. And through this, forces of illness can enter, which sometimes can declare through dreams. Snakes and all. I have seen people invaded by small little mosquito kind things. All kinds of dreams I have seen, which they fall ill in a day or two. So there are forces of illness, and normally there is an aura, a vital envelope, which prevents the illness. And this is made up of partly our physical state. If you have not slept well, aura will be less. And partly on the psychological condition. Kirlian photography can do it. Genuine healer can do it with the hands. Only problem with these is that, for every genuine thing, like in medicine, ये investigation जबरदस्ती करा लो, वो tweaking चलता है because it has been kept aloof from our mainstream. Maybe one day when it comes to mainstream, we will standardize it. Why not? It came in a big way. Russia में था, फिर बहुत आया था, India में भी आया था. Yes. So there are other ways you can actually do the aura mapping. Actually, that is something which can be easily even practiced. One can. I have done this in with certain patients. Simply just it used to be called jhad phuk. Unfortunately, बहुत ज़्यादा तो unfortunately वही हो गया है. But simply rhythmically moving your hands over the body. Now these are specialized techniques, so I didn't talk about it, but it does help. Even that caress, but even if you do it wrong. And I can even, I don't like to do these demonstrations, but you can see it one day, do it between two of you. Ask one person to hold the hand straight, tight. Okay, then try to put it down. Say कि मत गिराना. तो वो पूरा strength से resist कर रहा है, you won't be able to put it down. All that you know to do is after that, do this movement of the hand all around the arm. Just a chaotic movement. Just a chaotic movement. Next moment you touch it, it just comes down because the sustaining aura would disturb it. There are simple things you can try. So aura, yes, it's a whole science and one can develop it. But these are specialized things.
Where it is like this country, where it is available.
What?
Kirlian
Kirlian
photography.
photography you'll find plenty of material came out. See, now it is not, where it is available. See, it was, again as I said now, these things, mainstream medical science, जैसे अभी resist कर रही है, आयुर्वेद को. Sorry to say, but I know the controversy is going on. It is resisting. Now behind that resistance, many of us become unwitting. जैसे होता है ना, एक धरना हुआ. अब धरना जो हो रहा है उसमें मोटिवेशन है, लेकिन जो बैठा है धरने पर उससे आप पूछो भैया क्यों बैठे हो, कॉज क्या है तुम्हारा, तो उसको नहीं पता है, उसको दारू की बोतल मिली है. So you will see this unfortunately which happens. But actually I believe if healing is the goal, then the method of therapy should be subordinated to this goal. Again, I follow that principle, whatever helps, helps. So bring in from that door an integrated system of, why not? Why can't I learn meditation and teach? So Kirlian photography came in a big way, but it was discredited without even properly doing research on it. I can say this because I have been involved in I didn't do the research, but my student did the research, very genuine girl who was actually doing in home science. तो उसको कोई मिल नहीं रहा था, मैं तो मेरा फील्ड नहीं है, बट वो कुछ स्पेशल परमिशन लेके because they knew me, they said okay you can review the thesis, you can work under you. So I know it was a genuine study. So I don't know now, perhaps it is still available as a machine, but its development went into the backyard. Many things have suffered like that. अच्छा, हाँ, so वो तो एक एस्पेक्ट है. There was a machine which was created I'm forgetting the year, when the breathing from, उसका नाम, ब्रीदिंग पैटर्न से वो डायग्नोस करते थे. आपने कभी नोटिस किया है कि जब लेफ्ट साइड करवट लेते हो, डोंट, इट्स नॉट न्यूरोटिसिज्म, but do it as an exercise. When you take turn to the left and when you turn to the right, what happens to your thought patterns? Just do this observation. Today you do it. Why? Because the dominant nostril changes, and that's why there is that song, Karvate badalte rahe sari raat. Because now what has happened? Now it is not helping anymore. Idhar jao, udhar jao, because you are invaded by all that hyper information which is triggering locus coeruleus and all that. But there is a difference which is simple thing like this makes. करवट लेने से, there's something we can do. Today we can do. घर में सो रहे हो देखना. It makes a difference. And actually at night we do shift positions and it is known to impact. Automatically we shift. Our brains tell us. Observe किया है रात करवट का क्या मतलब है? Is it just a mechanism? So we have not even studied these basic things which is our everyday life. क्यों करवट लेते हैं? क्या होता है? After all, body ने ये evolve किया है ना, ये mechanism. ये क्यों evolve किया है? There must be something about it. So, lens photography, it does exist, but again you need people, experts. That's another bottleneck. Yes. But short of that also, just incorporating these few things to start with, this paradigm shift to start with. Consciousness studies need not be through PET scan, but as a paradigm, people can understand the framework of consciousness within which the human system operates. That's good enough. Okay. So, we'll try. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inspector Alok. I think you have touched the chord which exists in our hearts, in education, in patient care, and starting with simple means such as sound, sight, voice. I'll take 1 minute. See, there was a boy who had progressive muscular paralysis, and that boy was contemplating suicide. Now that boy was taken to a consultant. The consultant says, what is the problem? I can't run, I can't jump, I can't do anything which boys of my age can do. So then the consultant asked him, can you sing? He said yes. Can you write? He said yes. Can you meditate? So then something struck in the mind of the boy. I can do it even better than the other boys of my age. I can be competitively superior in this matter. And then the author, the consultant, which is Dr. Alok, it is he who counseled that boy, that from that moment, the life of that boy and the life of his parents changed for the better. So even when the things are very green, he could infuse the higher denominator or the higher component. We are very grateful to you for.
Since you shared it, I'll take 2 minutes. There is a patient now, even now. He's an endocrinologist in New York. And he has a similar problem which has come up now. They were trying stem cell and all, hopeless situation. Parents as well as this man. And I'm not doing consultancies like that, but because people who know, they started and I started interacting with them. So 2 years back I had gone, met him, and at that time it was question of few months. His life began to change because see, you need to look toward the future. You were all on the body. And he discovered that there is a whole world I can discover. Life became meaningful. Till date, even 2 days back. And he has such beautiful experiences inwardly. And he asked me that, Dr. Alok, this is what I had dreamed 2 days back. This is what I felt 1 week back. So what do you have to suggest? What is this about? वो कहाँ illness जो उसका पता नहीं कहाँ वो background में चली गई है. It is there. And the parents are saying कि when they had all prepared mentally when I met him कि इसको 2-3 महीना, that's what doctors have said. अभी 2 साल हो गया है. It's not like a magic recovery, but he has वो 2 साल उसके कौन से concentrated evolution हो गए. Now he says, I'm not bothered by my illness. I know that my inner journey has come so far, it will go further. I mean, all these things have come naturally to me. So there is so much more than the body.
As a symbol of our gratitude, there is a signature of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
Oh, thank you so
So we
much.
request you to accept it.
This is an honor.
Thank you very much.